Should you go see Ford versus Ferrari? Hey, welcome to my spoiler-free review of the new movie Ford versus Ferrari, directed by James Mangold, the same man behind Logan, 3:10 to Yuma, and Walk the Line, amongst other movies. American car designer Carroll Shelby, played by Matt Damon, and driver Ken Miles, played by Christian Bale, battle corporate interference, the laws of physics, and their own personal demons to build a revolutionary race car for Ford and challenge Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1966. I'm reading this out of the Austin Film Festival program book. So when this movie starts off, this isn't giving anything away. Ferrari's at the top of the race world, building elite cars. Ford is struggling to hang in there. They're looking for something new, something fresh to put their name back into relevancy. Ken Miles is working as a mechanic while also, driving. He's not the most friendly mechanic. He knows a lot more than you do when it comes to your car, if it is your car. He can tell you that too. And Carroll Shelby, we get a look at his background, his history prior to becoming an automotive designer. So I had an opportunity to watch this film in advance at this year's Austin Film Festival. It was screened downtown at the Paramount Theater. So the way that I became interested in this movie actually has some roots back in my childhood. See, growing up, my favorite car was the '05 Ford GT, just because of the design and the fact that it was like the only American supercar at the time that was on the same level as the Lamborghini or the Ferrari. Naturally, my ears would prick up whenever I learned something about the car. And in 2017, when they released the new update of that model, that was the first time I ever heard about the story behind the original car and this feud between Ferrari and Ford. And shortly after that, I learned that the story was being developed into a movie. And at that moment, I decided I had to be in theaters to see it. By no means am I saying that I'm a race fan or a car enthusiast or anything like that. But you don't necessarily have to be to go and watch this film. You don't have to have all this knowledge and familiarity with that world in order to understand and enjoy this movie. Actually, the director himself, James Mangold, said that he didn't have a particular interest in motorsports either. Neither him or his colleagues really, but they took time while preparing for this movie to try to give the representations and the renderings on screen as much authenticity as possible. And with me saying that, if you are heavily invested in motorsports and the world of racing, just know that this movie is not in the same vein as Rush or Grand Prix or the original Le Mans with Steve McQueen, I believe. This is not gritty, it's not dark, it's not meticulous, it's not very in depth in that culture. So if that's what you're expecting out of this movie, you might be a little disappointed. I would say just keep in mind that the things that they're working with, particularly like the models of the cars, are very difficult to get their hands on. Like with the GT40, there are only a handful in existence, and those owners were not very enthusiastic about including their vehicle in a rough and tough movie production where it could get scuffed up, might be involved in some wrecks, things like that. But like I said, the director and the crew did their due diligence, and as a result, we have great sound design in this movie. You feel like you're right there on the track in the driver's seat, and coupling that with a lot of the cinematography of the races, a lot of the shots are behind the wheel. You feel like you're a part of the action. And while that race action is enough to get most people in the door, it's going to be the character drama that surrounds all of that that's going to keep you in your seat. This movie focuses a lot on interconnection and relationships. And our lead characters kind of show us their coexistence in between two different spaces. Matt Damon's character dealing with corporate, but also the development of the car. And then Christian Bale's character dealing with the car development team, as well as balancing his obligations as a father and husband. So it's interesting to see both men manage their responsibilities in their positions while also staying true to their pursuit of their passions. Matt Damon and Christian Bale were excellent in this movie. They really molded into their roles and really played well off of each other, whether they're working together or were at odds in the movie. Another performance to look out for was the portrayal of Henry Ford II by Tracy Letts. His performance was really surprising and really took control of the screen. Like whenever he was in front of the camera, he walks in to a situation, all eyes were on him. He stole the show for real. As a whole, I would say that the dialogue and the exchanges were very witty and sharp, a lot of dry humor, but it also had this sense of being kind of impulsive. I can't think of a better word, but what I mean by that is there are different times in the movie where it seems like something is set up to play out a certain way. And when you actually get to the moment where that result is supposed to happen, it kind of pivots. And I really enjoyed that. It really kept me on my toes while I was watching. And I think that was another goal of the filmmakers, was to put the audience in a space where they're right alongside the main characters or whoever happens to be on screen in that moment, whenever decisions and choices are going to be made, because you're not exactly sure which way it's going to go. And your reaction, your initial reaction, may change by the end of the scene. So to kind of wrap this up, the big question is, should you go see Ford versus Ferrari? And the answer is yes. It does a great job of juggling the racing, the technical aspect of how it's presented, as well as the narrative, the trials that each character goes through. My biggest takeaway was that this is a story about performance and fulfillment. Very often we say that things should change, or we have these great ideas and we dream big, but it takes something more to actually execute. And this movie examines that. It looks at when it's actually time to step up, when you actually get punched in the mouth, you have some setbacks, and you take a real hard look at the risks that lay ahead of you. Do you still have what it takes, the internal fortitude to still try and realize your visions? And so with that type of messaging, plus all of the fun and enjoyment of it on an entertainment level, why not? Why not go? So just to recap, this movie is not gritty. It is not a deeply meticulous docu-film about racing. This is a fun-filled, full-body movie about an impressive car and the amazing people who brought it into existence. So, on November 15th, less than 2 weeks, make sure that you find your way to a local theater to see Ford versus Ferrari. Thanks again for watching my video. Please take me up on my suggestion to go see this movie. I promise you won't be disappointed. Until the next time, take care, guys.